Tell me a little bit about your books.
All right. Well, the first one I wrote, Grace Abuse, was in I started writing in 97, published it in 98. That one is about the doctrine. There's a doctrine within the church world called, basically, it's called unconditional eternal security, or once you're saved, you're always saved, no matter how you live. I think that's an error, and I go through the scriptures from pretty much from Genesis to Revelation and deal with that error. And so that was my first one. Then I wrote in 2007 a book called Tongues of Fire, basically about the baptism of the Holy Spirit and the gift of tongues, what it is, what it isn't, what's the true, what's the counterfeit. And that one's that's a short book that we give out free on PDF on our website. And then in 2011, I started writing a book called The Polluted Church from Rome to Kansas City. That's a thicker book. I published it in 2012, where I deal with the counterfeit gifts in Christianity and how a lot of Christianity has slipped into New Age and Hindu, Buddhist meditation and prayer and different occultic things, visualization and stuff like that. So I deal with that, kind of dealing with the occult world and how it's crept into a lot of the church. And then, of course, in 2019, I wrote my thickest book that's called Like Clay Under the Seal. That is a book about biblical creation and the true nature of the earth, the sun, moon, and stars, what the Bible says about it. And then also I go into the real science, and I've got one chapter dedicated to declassified government documents that admit that the biblical account of creation is true, from NASA documents to Army, Navy, technical manuals, all kinds of stuff. So that one is actually, it's 479 pages, and it really should have been about 650 pages, but I had to quit.
That sounds pretty interesting. You said the biblical creation. You're saying that Adam and Eve.
Well, I'm saying everything. Adam and Eve would be the origin of man. So, like, for instance, the science world says that man evolved over hundreds of thousands, even billions of years from, crawling out of the pond scum to becoming, finally monkeys, and monkeys evolved to humans. I don't believe that, but to me, it's complete nonsense. It takes more faith to believe that than it does biblical creation or origin of man. But then, of course, I don't believe in Big Bang Theory either, that nothing exploded and created everything. The biblical model of creation is a three-tiered system, basically. And again, this is what the Bible teaches. It teaches the shape of the earth is flat with contour, that under the earth is hell, that's down. The earth is set upon pillars. It does not move. It does not spin. It does not fly. And there is a dome over it. There's a crystalline glass dome in which the stars are attached, and above that is where the throne of God is and where he sits.
Interesting. What's that? Flat, like flat earth? Round?
Well, yeah. In the shape of the earth, the Bible, Job 38, when God speaks to Job, he tells him the shape of the earth. He says the earth is, a lot of people take the word circle and think that he means it's a ball. Never in Scripture does God ever describe the earth as a ball, ever. He describes it as a circle that he engraved upon the face of the deep. So it is a flattish circle. We don't know how deep it is. We don't know how deep it goes, because the Russians they've dug the deepest hole. It's about 8 miles deep. That's it. That's as far down as we've been able to go. But yes, and it's covered by the sky. The Bible talks about there's 3 heavens. One is the atmosphere in which the birds and fly in our air is. The other is a solid, crystalline, molten glass-like dome that covers it, and above that, the throne of God sits. Now, I know we've been told these lies from NASA and all this stuff for all of our lives, but NASA lies about a lot of things. And again, you cannot believe the biblical account and the world's account. They're completely opposed to one another.
So, I remember at school people thought, does it wrap around, or does the water just go off? What happens?
No. See, and again, that's different. You've got the Flat Earth Society, right? And they're crazy. They've got these weird models that make no sense. God said that he engraved or carved a circle upon the face of the deep. If you if you look, remember, water has to have a container. And there's two things we know about water. Number one, water has to have a container. Number two, it always finds its level, always. If water undisturbed was going to go, and it's going to be, I mean, we use it in levels to level walls and when we're building stuff. So it's always going to go to level. So water has to have a container, just like the gas in our atmosphere has to have a container. You know, it makes no sense to say we have hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen. We have basically a gaseous atmosphere up against a negative 17 torr vacuum, and it doesn't get sucked off the planet without a barrier of some kind. So we've been told a lot of stuff that doesn't even make sense with science. But if you think about it, in the biblical model, the Bible talks about the ends of the earth over and over and over again. You don't fall off, because number one, when you get to the ends of the earth, basically any direction 180 degrees from the North Pole is south. Okay, and once you go south, you're going to hit a 200-foot ice wall called Antarctica. Now they say it's a continent on the bottom, but it's actually goes all the way around. It's a 200-foot ice wall, and that's what holds that's the container for the oceans. And God said He set a barrier for the oceans where they could go no further. Well, we know He's not talking about the beaches, because sometimes we have hurricanes and tsunamis and things where the water goes further than the beaches. So He talks about there's a barrier. But this is something, look, I spent the last, 6-7 years now researching and documenting and going through the real science. For instance, we've gone to Mobile Bay. Well, I can take you down to Mobile Bay right now. We can I've got high zoom cameras. We got telescopes, lasers. We've done tests down there. I've had ex-military officers with me, geometry teachers, engineers. The curvature rate of the earth is supposed to be, if it's a ball of 24,901 miles in circumference, the math doesn't lie. It's 8 inches per mile squared is how much it's supposed to curve. All right. So that means, for instance, at 10 miles, the earth should curve 666, or not 600, but 66.6 feet, which is about a 7-story building. So meaning like this, if I'm over here and 10 miles is over here, then this curve bulge should be at its peak, should be a 7-story building. So I should not see anything 10 miles away that is not higher than a 7-story building. Do you understand? All right. Well, you can stand. We go to North Beach Park in Fairhope, right? If you look back from the east side of the bay, if you look due west, there's the state docks there, right? And they've got the big 12-foot and 16-foot blue spools that they have the cables on that they use to unload the ships with. But those are sitting on the dock. The dock's 10 feet off the water. The spools are 12 to 16 feet high. I've got video and pictures of the dock and the spools sitting on the dock. Meaning there's no way I should see that if the earth is curving, and actually it's 11 miles away there. So it's even more than a 7-story building. For instance, you can stand in that beach in Fairhope and you can look back north and you can see the I-10 bridge that goes across the bay. I'm sure you've been across through the tunnel and over the bridge, right? All right. That bridge sits 16 feet off the water. I called the Alabama Department of Transportation. 16 feet. I can see the bridge and I can see cars going across the bridge 10 miles away. Now, if the earth curves and water and the oceans and everything curves with it, then I shouldn't be able to see the bridge. I shouldn't be able to see the cars. Shouldn't be able to see anything. So that's one of the biggest proofs is long distance photography now has proved that the earth does not curve like we've been told.
So can you still sail around the earth though?
It's no different going around a ball than it is going around a circle. I have a map in here. You basically go around. It's like going around your neighborhood. You can start in one place, do a circle around your neighborhood, and come back to the same place. You don't have. You get what I'm saying?
Oh, yes, I can follow you.
There's never been 360 north-south navigation. That's never happened. Matter of fact, you can watch flight radar stuff, and you can see it there too. I mean, there's just so much. That's why my book's 479 pages, brother. It's a lot of information. And I've interviewed. Well, I mean, here's one of the biggest clues to let you know. I've interviewed Navy missile instructors. A guy named Sean. I talked to him for over 2 hours. He's a whistleblower basically on this, but he taught our Navy guys how to fire the Sparrow missile system. And he said that, number one, he said that he has optics that he can put line of sight on a ship 60 miles away. But if the Earth's a ball, that's impossible. And then he told me that his ship also has a laser weapon that can shoot down a Russian cruise missile that flies 50 feet off the water. He said that cruise missile is coming in, Mach 2, Mach 3, Mach 4. He said, we have to shoot that down over 100 miles away or it's going to hit our ship because it's moving so fast. He said, we can shoot it down with a laser. Now, laser doesn't curve, brother. A laser weapon is straight line of sight. He said, we shoot it down over 100 miles away and it's 50 feet off the water. He said, so you tell me, do you know how 100 miles, how much of a curve bulge is supposed to be there?
No, I don't.
6,666 feet. That's almost a mile and a half.
Really?
Meaning the laser would have to do this. The laser from the ship would have to do like this.
I've never thought about that. When you said the image from NASA, so they're showing us the picture of the Earth. Is that real or is that something?
They got caught. I've got there was a guy that named Bart Sibrel, and he used to work. I think he worked for ABC News, one of the big companies. But he went out on his own and started doing documentaries. Well, he was doing a documentary on the moon landing. All right, and he sent NASA a request for footage to use in his documentary, right? This is a normal thing you do, right? You want footage and you want the permission to use it, you send requests. Well, either a whistleblower at NASA or somebody did something by mistake, but they sent him about 11 minutes of footage from Apollo 11. On the very days they claimed to be halfway to the moon, they were in low Earth orbit, sitting still, not orbiting at 17,500 miles an hour. They were sitting still, faking a picture of the Earth, turning out the lights in the cabin, using a circular window of the Earth below, and putting in a piece of cardboard in the paper in there to make the Terminator line. They got busted. It was Buzz Aldrin. It was them. Apollo footage. But they've been busted so many times. For instance, the Apollo 17 picture, they said was the entire lit side of the Earth from the moon, right? So it means you should see the whole thing. When you go to find out, you take that photograph they took, and you go to that time, you go back to that time and date stamp site, and you put in what part of the Earth's lit up at this time of the day on this, they couldn't get it all. They can't get high enough to get a picture of the whole thing. The guy who did the blue marble, remember the iPhones came out and they had the picture of the Earth and it was the blue marble, they called it, right? Mr. Blue Marble, the guy that did it, created, he's called a data visualizer at NASA. Here's what he said. He said it's photoshopped because it has to be. That's him. That's why you see NASA put out, they don't say they're pictures. They say they're composite images.
Composite images, okay.
They
So,
yeah.
the moon. So I watched the show on that one time. So the moon landing, it was all a hoax.
Yeah. Yeah, they couldn't do it. I'll tell you one reason. Number one, that we know they couldn't do it. Because, okay, they claim that they sent back a television signal to the Earth from the moon, right? 240,000 miles. Engineers and electrical engineers have said, and I have the books by them, they've said point blank, there is no way that in 1969 they had enough power, they could take enough batteries or power generation to the moon to send a television signal back 240,000 miles. Impossible. Number two, they told us the moon has 1/6 gravity, right?
Right.
And so the Eagle that landed on the moon had a 10,000-pound thrust engine that they had to land, right? Go back and look at the pictures. Every picture underneath the lunar lander, there's no blast crater under there for that to land. There's no dust even on the moon dust on the landing pads. There's nothing. There's shadows going multiple directions, meaning there's multiple light sources. Number one, many times the dust sticking to them. Dust to stick to you has to have moisture in the air. Has to have moisture on your clothing, right?
Yeah.
The moon's supposed to have no atmosphere, no moisture, and yet the dust was sticking to them. The moon is supposed to rotate 15 feet per second, right? That's how much it's turning. So when Apollo 16, when astronaut Young jumps up in the air and does the salute of the flag and lands back down, that's at least a second or two. He should have landed with no atmosphere and the moon spinning at 15 feet per second. He should have landed a minimum of 15 feet or 30 feet away from where he was. He did not. Yeah. I could go on and on and on.
That's a question. The computer in our car today has more navigational systems than back then. How's the GPS in there?
Oh, we've had GPS since before we put up satellites in 19. So we do have satellites. I do believe that. We have satellites, but they're on balloons. They're balloon satellites. And I've got all the documents from the declassified Freedom of Information Act requests. It's all balloons, brother, in the atmosphere. But they don't even use those. We've had a system called the Loran system that ships that we used in World War II, how to navigate. It's all land-based. And get this. I have a ex-Special Forces friend of mine, and he used to go on missions to extract certain political figures from certain countries. Right?
Oh, right.
Yeah. And he said they were on a mission one time, and he was the radio guy, and he had the sat phone, and he said that, his job was basically they would get this guy out. If they were seen, he was to radio in and let them know we've either been seen and we're going to have a hot extraction, or we've not been seen and we're going to stealth out of here, right? Well, they were seen. They were under fire. He's looking down the sat phone, no signal, no signal, no signal, no signal. So he doesn't call in. Again, choppers come in. It's hot. They're getting shot at, but they get out. He gets back. The brass comes in, debriefing. Sergeant, why did you not alert us? Why did you not call in? He said, I'd never got a satellite signal. They laughed. All the brass looked at each other and laughed and said, it's all land-based communication. Next time, just make the call.
Really?
Yes. Yes. They know. I've talked to an Air Force captain, ex-lieutenant colonels that ran the entire European theater and Asian theater, radar experts. Yeah, it's flat, man. It's flat. We've been lied to about everything, my friend. Everything.
So, the planes only go up so high, so there's nothing. When you said it's all land-based, no communications are going through those satellites?
No, here's what happens now. When you get up to, all right, you got to look at it like this, okay? God said he made a firmament dome, right? So, and it's solid. Now, we don't know how high that is. It could be anywhere from, somewhere, my estimations from what I think is probably about 500, maybe 600,000 feet max, all right? At 73 miles, and I've researched this out. I share this in the book. Even NASA admits, pretty much 73 miles is where everything changes. Okay, amateur rockets like the Go Fast rocket have been shot up, and all this stuff. Physicists, everybody agrees at 73 miles there's a change. It's not outer space like we've been taught. It's not this empty vacuum and we escape the Earth's atmosphere. That's all nonsense. What it is it reaches about negative 465 degrees at 73 miles. What happens at that range and above that range is what's called a superfluid gas. The ancients called it the ether, okay? But basically it's almost like it's a very dense, almost water-like, but gas. And it's very dense, which is why they have to have two-stage rockets. They have one stage to get them to that point. The second stage, they have to plow into it. I have video footage of one of Elon Musk's launch from California, and you can see where it changes, where it goes into the blue ether gas when it leaves the oxygen-rich environment and moves into that. It looks like they're plowing through blue water. Yeah.
So are all the big nations, are all of them involved in this? Like Russia?
Yeah, they all know. Now a Russian cosmonaut who was from Poland, they asked him not too long ago, is the Earth flat or is it a ball? He said, oh, it's flat. So there's been whistleblowers to tell the truth about this. But most of your astronauts, like Buzz Aldrin and those guys, were high-level Freemasons, and they were high-level occultists. And of course, NASA was headed up by Werner von Braun, who was an SS officer who was deep into the occult with the Vril Society before he left Germany and came over here. We brought, Operation Paperclip, we brought 1,600 German SS officers, scientists. They pretty much started a lot of our programs, like the MK Ultra program. I don't know if you know about all that or not, but